Hey, what's up guys? Today I'm doing a review on the Rival Boxing RB1 Ultra Bag Glove 2.0. So check it out. Hey guys, Carlo here. Today I'm doing a review on the Rival Boxing RB1 Ultra Bag Gloves 2.0. I got mine in the red colorway, size large. It is a Velcro closure only model. You can get it anywhere between small to XL with a total of 4 colors to choose from, which you can check out on Rival's website. It's made of a synthetic microfiber PU on the exterior with a foamy tricoat liner on the inside of the hand compartment, and they utilize layered foam padding that's very firm over the knuckles, and the gloves are manufactured in China. Now this is going to be the first time I actually used and reviewed the RB1, surprisingly, because this is one of Rival's original bag glove models they came out with years ago, and I never really had a chance to try these gloves out just because Rival has so many other great models over the years that I've used and just never got around to using these gloves. One thing to keep in mind, like other Rival bag gloves, is that they go off of the letter sizing when it comes to these gloves, whether it's small, medium, large, or XL. They don't use ounces when it comes to their bag gloves. So if you go to the Rival website and you're curious on which size to get, there is a sizing chart there based on your weight and your hand size or your hand circumference. In my opinion, I always go off your hand size. I would not necessarily go off your weight. Although, yes, if you're typically a heavyweight, you know, in terms of size-wise, generally speaking, most likely your hands will be bigger. Now, that's not always the case because there's guys that are the same height as me that are 5'8" and are over 200 pounds and may have similar size hands as me, although they might have a little bit larger hands. So that's not necessarily always the case. And in my opinion, I found that I would not go off of weight. I would go off your hand measurement because that's a little bit more of an accurate way to determine the sizing of the bag gloves for you. Because if you go off by weight, you might get a glove that's too small, and then you might feel that the glove is too restrictive and it hurts your hands. So again, that's just my personal opinion on that when it comes to picking bag gloves from Rival, or really any company that sells their gloves by the letter size rather than the ounce. With that being said, when I did put these gloves on the scale, they came in at both 13.7 ounces. So both gloves are the identical weight as each other, which is a great thing. But I would assume that these are basically a 14-ounce glove. If I were to round up, they're 14 ounces for the size large, which I have here. So being 14 ounces at large, I would assume that their XL is probably 16. Their medium is probably 12 ounces, and their small maybe 10. So that would probably be the best way I would look at it in terms of if you're looking at getting these gloves based on the number weight. But again, I would go by your hand circumference because this glove in particular runs a little bit more on the compact side, which brings me onto the design of the glove. Now, this glove definitely is a little bit more of a compact style bag glove. You know, I'd say that it's definitely larger than like the RB50s and some other smaller bag mitts like the RB5. But generally speaking, for a boxing glove, I'd say it's a little bit more on the compact side. The material they use on the exterior is very similar to the other microfiber PU, which is polyurethane they use in some of their other models. Although I feel like this PU feels a little bit cheaper, a little more entry level than say the PU that they use in the RS1s or even the RS100s. I feel like this one just feels just a little bit cheaper and more vinyl-like compared to the other microfibers. So maybe they did that to reduce cost in making these gloves. And also keep in mind these gloves are definitely a little bit more affordable than the other gloves I just mentioned. So maybe that has something to do with it. You do have the Rival logo on the back, both vertically written, and then you have the actual logo that's kind of diagonal. You do have some stitching that comes across that goes over the punch surface and kind of rotates down and comes across horizontally over the finger compartment. right here is the area I'd be most concerned with over, using these gloves over time, that maybe this eventually will kind of get unraveled and come apart. But these are not sparring gloves, so I wouldn't be concerned with actually hitting somebody in the face with that. You do have the Rival logo like they have on a lot of their models right there on the finger compartment. On the back of the glove, you'll notice it does have that wrist lock nylon strap with the silicone patch. That's rectangular. It does say Rival that is stitched on there. It has a nice soft touch feel. The wrist lock technology is a very large, long Velcro strap, or nylon strap with Velcro, should I say. And then you have a plastic D-ring. So essentially it works like almost like a ratcheting style system. Very similar to what you see with other Rival products. So you do have that to really lock your wrist in. The back of the wrist, you're looking at maybe about 1.25 inches of firm density foam padding, and maybe about 1/2 inch where the Velcro strap goes. So now you'll notice that it kind of lowers down. It's a little recessed right here, so that when you wrap that nylon strap around your wrist, it kind of evens out. But you can see that it's definitely lower than the back right there. It does say RB1 Ultra Bag Glove. You do have the size, black piping, that foamy tricot liner, your usual tags where the glove is manufactured, warning label, etc. Down here, you can cut that off if you want to. Rotating, I know a lot of you guys are going to be saying in the comments, I hate synthetic mesh. I know, I already know what you're saying. I'm not a big fan of it either, but they have synthetic mesh pretty much full length on the palm side of the glove. It does say 20 years original, so basically like 20-year anniversary. So you do have that synthetic mesh. Not a big fan of that. I know that it's much more breathable and probably easier and cheaper to manufacture. The big issue I have with synthetic mesh is when Velcro touches it, it likes to stick, and then it makes the mesh start to fray. So durability with mesh obviously is not going to be as good as any type of synthetic PU or genuine leather, but it does offer some breathability when it comes to that. So you have it go all the way there. It does have a really nice grip bar, nice and firm, and it has more of a rectangular shape, but you can definitely feel that. And then lastly, you do have a full length attached thumb. Again, it is a bag glove, so you shouldn't be using this for sparring. That way your thumb doesn't flare out and hit somebody in the eye. But again, these aren't sparring gloves, so there shouldn't be any concern with that. Quality-wise, the gloves are solid in terms of the overall craftsmanship. I would just think the materials they use is going to be where you see where they have a little bit more of an economical take on the glove, meaning that, again, like I mentioned, the synthetic PU they have here definitely doesn't feel the same quality as some of the other ones, like the RS1 or the RS100. Feels thinner, feels a little bit cheaper. The synthetic mesh, not a big fan of that as well, but it's there. The gloves, I say, are a little top heavy with the weight distribution being towards the front of the glove, or the top of the glove, should I say. The weight of the gloves are both at 13.7 ounces. Again, this is not a glove that's measured by its weight numerically, so I can't really sit there and say, okay, these are supposed to be 14-ounce gloves and they're at 13.7, so they're underweight, because they're not advertised as a 14-ounce glove. So with that being said, both gloves are exactly on point with weight. In terms of symmetry, putting the gloves next to each other, they're essentially the same height and width. You can see that the logo design is symmetrical, which looks really good. Same thing with the pre-curved hand compartment. That looks really good. You're looking at about 2 inches of foam thickness through the hand compartment. Finger compartment logos looks really good. Positioning of the thumb is pretty much the same. Kind of this side, you guys can see again, positioning where the Velcro strap is at looks good. Bottom piping looks good as well. So you essentially want the glove to basically mirror each other. You know, you see some other gloves where the quality control isn't as good, and you'll notice little things where the stitching is off or the thumb position is weird on one glove compared to the other. So overall, very solid quality. Stitching on the glove looks really good as well. So the actual stitching looks pretty solid. And again, it's just more of the materials being a little bit more entry level with this glove, which is also reflected in the price. So you have to also take that into consideration. But in terms of construction, looks pretty solid. Stitching looks good. Again, the synthetic mesh. Does say wrist lock right there on the nylon strap. 20-year anniversary, celebrating Rival. They've been around for a while. And all looks really good. Comfort-wise, loosen up the strap. So first thing you notice is going to be that nice foamy tricot liner on the inside of the hand compartment. I definitely like the way that this wrist lock strap locks your wrist into place. And I think that Rival does a really good job with a lot of their different models with the wrist lock and the wrist lock 2, where you have the strap that comes up higher and attaches to the inner portion of the thumb. So they've done a great job in terms of giving you that support you're looking for on your wrist, pretty much on your forearm, and for some of their models a little bit lower on the bottom portion of your palm. So that feels really good. The thumb is in perfect position, nice and deep, and you have a nice pre-curved fist to make a really good, nice tight fist. So the hand ergonomics are definitely there. And the other thing is you can really feel that grip bar, which I'm a big fan of. The finger compartment is not too wide, not too narrow. I don't feel like my hands are kind of scrunching up against each other. It is more on the compact side, so keep in mind if you do have hand wraps on, you may feel a little bit of tightness at the base of the thumb, a little discomfort. I'll be frank with you guys. I actually use these gloves without hand wraps because I just feel like they're more comfortable that way. Some people may be against that and say, well, you got to use hand wraps no matter what. So completely subjective. I don't use hand wraps with old school style bag mitts as well, just because I feel like there's a benefit of using it without hand wraps to kind of strengthen your forearms, your wrist, and just get used to punching with proper form and technique. And I kind of feel the same way with these gloves, just more compact. So I don't use hand wraps with this one. Completely up to you. I just feel more comfortable that way. The foam on this glove is very stiff. It takes a very long time, but that's kind of the whole point behind this glove, is to give you a ton of shock absorption. I mean, this right here, when you push down on it, it just basically feels like a really thick piece of EVA foam. I mean, there's no give to this whatsoever. You're really gonna have to use this glove a lot on the heavy bag. And it's really good for those really densely filled heavy bags like the Nazo, the ProLast, any of those bags that are made of that tarpaulin material, and then they fill it and it feels pretty solid when you hit it. This kind of bag glove is definitely good to use on that compared to like a horsehair or a softer filled glove, because you can hit it with power confidently and not feel like you're going to injure your hand because of that foam. So definitely a good glove for protection, especially for power punchers and being confident and throwing with a lot of power because of that foam composition being a lot more dense. And you also have that wrist lock system down below. Does it compare to like the wrist lock 2, where you have a little bit higher of that diagonal strap that comes to your thumb? No, it's not as good as that. I feel like you get more support with those other gloves, but you're also paying more at a higher price point. But this wrist lock 2 down here, I do definitely like the fact that you really lock in the bottom portion of your wrist. So overall, a very comfortable glove. I prefer to use it without hand wraps, but it's completely up to you. Protection and performance wise, again, this is definitely a protective glove, something that you can use to feel very confident throwing with your power shots. It's not a very soft glove, so don't expect to be able to open your hand all the way up, because you can't. You're really gonna have to break this foam down to really kind of get that parrying shot. But again, this is a glove designed for bag work, so it does its job when it comes to hitting the bag. If you're looking for that good pop, got a good bang, that really nice power shot landing type of feel, then you'll definitely get it with this glove. And you land on those 2 front knuckles as well, so I think they did a good job with that. It's not an IMF foam, but it definitely has the density and that protective property that you would get with IMF, except that the foam composition over time will definitely break in nicely compared to an injected molded glove. So that's one thing I definitely like about this glove. Cost-wise, these gloves are about $110 if you get it through Rival. There's other third-party retailers that might sell it for a little bit cheaper, but generally speaking, MSRP is about $110 for these gloves. The last time I checked, let me just double check, I'm pretty sure it's $110. Yep, $109.95, so $110, which I think is a fair price, all things considered, for a really good, solid bag glove. If you're looking for something that you really want a lot of protection over the knuckles, that's very stiff, that's very dense, but has a really nice hand compartment that you get that ergonomics where your thumb feels really good. It's nice and deep. You don't feel like your thumb is going to push against the tip and it feels like it jams. Nothing there. Overall, really a comfortable glove, good wrist support. I'd say obviously the quality is probably the area that has the most opportunity, but again, it kind of reflects in the pricing at 110. There's so many other rival bag gloves out there that are at the mid $100 to above $200 range. So definitely a solid glove overall for what they are. Great for bag work, and definitely would recommend it. And I definitely like the fact that they do have multiple colorways and sizes as well. So if you guys have any questions or comments, you guys know what to do. Put them down below. I'll put the link in the description box, or you can find these rival RB1 Ultra Bag Gloves 2.0. See you guys later. Peace.